You're watching BTech, I'm Basil, this is an HTC One A9 and you're watching our gaming review. The One A9 has a Snapdragon 617 processor at the heart of it. What that means is you haven't got a top ender in terms of performance, especially graphical performance, as we found in our performance and battery review video. But what you do have is a competent performer nonetheless. We've got the device, we've installed a ton of games on it. We've also got a Samsung gamepad so we can see how gamepad optimized games work. First off, I'm going to tell you about how the design fares in terms of gaming. That 5-inch Amoled display looks beautiful. It's nice and sharp, full HD, no quad HD resolution, so you don't have that Samsung Galaxy S6 level of sharpness, but it still looks beautiful nonetheless. In addition to that, the device is not too light, so it feels quite well weighted. It doesn't get too warm, which is nice. And the sad thing is the speaker at the base is very easy to cover up if you're hand holding it. You do, however, have that 3.5mm jack situated at the top if it's in landscape, so you can very easily plug that out. Naturally, if you are using this device in a gaming controller, then you will be very, very well served, even in terms of audio, as the speaker is going to be situated away from your hand. Now, as far as internals go, that 617 processor on our version is coupled with 3 GB of RAM. Obviously, for simple games like Flappy Birds, it's going to perform incredibly adequately. 2D games will look beautiful, especially with the block colors, given that vibrant, punchy AMOLED display. All the colors just look sensational, and I'm going to die on purpose so I can jump out and now go on to illustrate what a different game that's also 2D might perform like. So we've got Garou: Mark of the Wolf. This is a 2D fighting game. Now, first off, I'm going to illustrate exactly how much it blocks sound depending on how you hold it. So you can see very, very clearly there, it all just kind of becomes unusable sound-wise. You will definitely want to plug headphones in. Having said that, the second you do slip it into a controller, everything changes. And it definitely changes for the better. The gaming controller works beautifully with it. Even things like special moves become really, really simple to do, which is something you generally find hard on touchpads. So as you can see, it's a very intuitive experience. This isn't actually my favorite controller. The buttons are a tiny bit sticky. That's not a workman blaming his tools, but it's just the way it is. So you do have an analog controller up at the top as well. Nice and instantaneous, not too much lag on the controller. I'm generally really happy with how the A9 performs paired with that controller. Now, moving away from that and onto a 3D application that doesn't support controller, we can take a look at something like Lego Marvel, for example. It doesn't support controller. The graphical performance, though, is pretty spot on. Even though when we benchmarked this, it showed it ran way behind the likes of the Snapdragon 810 in terms of graphical performance. For most games you download through the Google Play Store, their optimization is going to be there to enable it to work flawlessly. The only game we couldn't actually get to run on here, which is worth noting if you're a big fan, was Vainglory. That's likely down to the fact it may not be optimized for a 617 processor just yet, but it will be down the line. As you can see though, something like this, which is a very, very simple 3D game, performs pretty beautifully. There's very, very little to kind of illustrate in any more detail, anything new. But what might is something like beach buggy racing, for example, which I'll just illustrate again. Let me connect it to the game controller, how a different type of 3D game fares. So now that I've been blown smithereens, we can pretty much finish up on a simple conclusion as far as Google Play games go. Snapdragon 617 processor, so some games like Vainglory, like I said, might not work until they're updated to work well with it. Standard downloadable games through the Google Play Store are pretty flawless. Now moving on to something a little bit more intense, and that is going to be something like Tekken or a PSP game or emulator in general. The same applies to PlayStation 1 emulators too. You can see we have a whole ton of other applications open, so I can actually just fire them out of the way so it can give you a little bit more of a fair representation as to how you can truly expect the performance across the 617 and emulators to go. You can see we've got frame skipping and auto frame skipping up to 2. If I was to jump that to 4, it should improve things a fair bit, even if it does look pretty horrific. Now this is the area when you get into games like this, which are really unoptimized for it, that you will really notice the Snapdragon 617 and particularly the HTC One A9 underperforms by comparison to other flagships on the market. So if you are someone who does want emulators on your phone, then, well, specifically wants hardcore 3D emulators on your phone, then you will definitely not want to get the HTC One A9. For you, the Samsung Galaxy S6 or S6 Edge would be the choice, the obvious choice. But if you are just happy with Google Play Store games, you want a device that's nice and slim, don't mind the fact that it has a bottom firing speaker, happy to connect it to a gamepad or connect Bluetooth speakers to overcome those issues, then for you, the HTC One A9, even as a gaming device, should perform relatively well and be relatively future-proof, so long as manufacturers keep optimizing their games for devices with this spec, which, given the fact it's such a new processor, will likely be the case. Hopefully you've enjoyed this gaming review of the HTC One A9. It's a final review component before we stitch all our reviews together and give you one nice, concise 3.5–4 minute rundown of exactly what we think of this phone in general. If there's anything we didn't cover that you want us to feature in that, or that we can fire in the comments section, make sure you let us know. Of course, if you did like the video, click that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. And that's how you will stay on top of everything we do, and of course be updated when we do finally post that HTC One A9 final full review. Thanks for watching.